Welcome to Warehouse Wizards, a podcast powered by Optiorix. In every episode, we're going to invite over an industry expert and touch on some topics, trends, and within warehousing and logistics. And today, we are honored to have our first guest, our first wizard, which is jandekimpe, a very well-known person within Belgium in the warehousing industry. Now, before we deep dive into the questions, Jan, could you maybe briefly introduce yourself?
Well, you already introduced me a bit. My profile is that I've been working in warehousing for more than 30 years now. I started my career at a newspaper that doesn't exist anymore. But after 2 years, I started working on warehousing, implementing warehouse management systems, working on warehouse design and warehouse processes. I did it for a couple of years in the ICT sector. Later on, I joined KPMG, so I became more a supply chain consultant in that context. And after a short period at IBM, I started my own company in 2001, Logisol Pro, where we started working on an advisory practice for warehousing and distribution. So we've been doing quite a lot of projects in that field, lots of automation also, physical and software automation.
Okay.
I'm also teaching, by the way, at KU Leuven. I'm also president of PIX Belgium, which is a membership organization for supply chain and logistics professionals. And I'm also active in Art4L.
Yes, so a bit of everything.
Yes, lots of caps.
We were happy that you're able to come over to share some of your experience. I feel one of your students right now. So,
Okay, good.
Maybe to start off, warehouse managers, what do you think their main challenges are nowadays? What keeps them awake at night?
Well, warehouses have always been very cost sensitive. Logistics and by extension also warehousing is seen as a cost for a company. Distribution costs average in industry is around 10% of the revenue. Includes other costs than warehousing, but transport has the biggest share. But the second biggest share is around 3.5-4%. Is about 3.5% is warehousing, and all of these costs are strongly increasing. Warehouse buildings, there's studies that are published. I can share figures of that. But warehouse cost, the building itself, has last 2 years increased by almost 30%. 25 to 30% if you look at it at the European perspective. And the people's cost has also increased. So general, we see that in Europe, the warehouse costs have increased the last 2 years by 20%. So what keeps warehouse managers awake every day is that they have to continue to meet service levels, and that they do this in a more stringent financial environment.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you think right now to identify like improvement points, how do they work? Do they use tools for that? Do they use people with your experience? Of course they do.
They often do. There's all different people that do this type of exercise. But what you should be aware of that there's two ways to find improvements. There's the big bang project where you say, okay, let's do tabula rasa, look at everything we do and do something else. And then we're looking at physical automation often. Or we look at some software improvements, but then, well, the other way around, there's a physical automation, often as the big bang improvement, or a new warehouse where you can work more efficient and whatever you can do, and make a greenfield and start over again. Or the other approach, which is more the operational excellence, lean warehousing approach, where you try to find small improvements and using certain tools, aids, technologies to find these little improvements that give you always a little percentage or part of a percentage improvement on your cost level, on your efficiency, on your productivity, on your use of assets, to find always better ways of working and thus reduce costs bit by bit.
Yeah.
Often this is in combination with the people themselves that are work on the floor, and then we're talking about a lean approach.
So you have like two streams of improvement that can be made. You touched upon automation, touched upon optimization, let's call it that way. How do you see appetite coming in those streams?
Well, the big project is, of course, requires lots of financial resources, because this often means tearing down a building or adding parts of buildings or doing something new besides what you have already, and also thinking about renewing what you have already. So often this comes with big investments, big spend. And today's market is not always as stable as one should want it to be, because we all know that if you want to automate and if you want to do a scenario like that, you're looking like 10 years ahead, and you're looking for a rather stable business. I'm saying rather, we used to say stable business, but we now today have automation that allows you to grow with the work volume and the profile of your orders to grow in different ways. We have the robots, the AMRs that can bring goods to man. We have also the shuttle system. Okay, it's a fixed system, but you can add shuttles as you grow, as your business grows. You can add picking stations with picking robots as the technology evolves. So there's quite a lot of things you can do with an automatic warehouse, but it still requires lots of financial resources that you need to start this thing up.
Yes.
But it can give you a path to the future, to the next coming years, and see how your business grows, and then see how you can invest or not. The smaller, like tiny little things is more like if you're really uncertain about what is going to happen, if you don't know how your business is going to evolve, if today you have a certain order profile, but you believe that this order profile will change. Like a question I recently had is, we now work a lot with distributors, but we think that we will move more towards a direct to market model instead of using distributors. What's the impact on our warehousing? Well, of course, you do get more picking lines. You do get more activity on the same system. So either the software should be able to handle it, but also the warehouse itself should have enough space to handle it. And you can add resources to a warehouse, and you can say, okay, we're now working with 10 people, let's add another 10, let's another 10. But at a certain moment, you will see that too many people in the same space is counterproductive, and you will start losing productivity and thus money.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, so you got a couple of trends going on: automation, optimization, and then it has become a key capability for logistics providers to know, depending on order item profile, the warehouse layout, what should we do here? Should we automate? Should we optimize? Okay. And then, of course,
but it depends on how long you can look ahead with your business.
Because the business case must be there. Automation is quite costly. So
you should typically look 10 years ahead.
Okay, very good. One of the other topics that everybody's talking about nowadays is digital twins. Now, for me, to be honest, it's not absolutely clear what the definition of digital twin is, and what's the value behind it. How do you see this?
A digital twin is, of course, a digital copy of your real life environment. Now, there's lots of talks about this. I even wrote, that's not activity, I have an article in Value Chain for that on that topic. So you build a model that you can use to simulate your real environment. That's a digital twin. So you could say, okay, what's different with simulation? With the definition I'm just giving, none. But there is difference, of course, because you want to use digital twin to plan your activity, to look at if this is the work I need to do, how should I release this work to my warehouse floor in the most optimal way to make sure that I meet all my deadlines and that I have my resources put in place as optimal as possible. So they are used as optimal as possible. And that's how we can use digital twin in a warehouse environment. So now the market is still rather immature. I don't think there's already a market for that. There is lots of interest in that. And the more you have a granularity of your data, the better you can use a model. But you should have rather high granularity, meaning that you cannot say I have so many lines to pick and let's simulate. then you can just as well do it in Excel and say, I have so many lines to pick, my productivity in that area is so much, my productivity in that area is so much, so many lines there, so many lines there, so many hours to pick, so let's start picking. So you can do it as well in Excel and say you are doing a digital twin. So that is not what we mean. This is planning activities and scheduling activities based on productivity figures. With the digital twin, you really need more granularity. So you need to know more, like I need to go there and then I need to cover this distance and I need to grab 3 times because I need to pick 3 bigger cartons, and there I only need to grab 1 time because I can take 3 cartons at once. So that's the granularity you need. Meaning that today a digital twin is more a topic to be looked at in a more automated warehouse, because there you have that granularity of that data, which is rather high. In a manual environment with a WMS, you also have some granularity, but not at that detail. You can, because models exist to do that, to say, okay, that's the distance to cover. There you take a curve so that you lose so many seconds because you have to slow down and speed up again, and there you have to stop, and then you have to. These models exist. You can do that, but the result of it is because you're working with people. The result of this is also with a
bigger margin in there,
with a bigger margin. So yes, it helps. It helps to set priorities in the way you have to work. And I do believe, I'm a believer in digital twin. I do believe that we will get there, and that probably warehouse management systems will integrate it, and we will have, in the future and now already, models that will learn this happened, so we should do this. Next time we have the same type of work to be distributed. And that's why I believe in digital twin, because they will come with improvements. It's not going to be like we're going to work like 20% faster, but it will be these little percentages.
It's more like to optimize the resources that you will plan. How many FTE do we need between 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning, depending on cutoffs of transport, and also your wave planning, because and every time you create a wave, you already start picking, but the longer you wait with wave planning, the better order batching you have, the smaller the distances.
Indeed. But also plan the physical flow in the warehouse, because a warehouse requires physical space. And this physical space is limited. I'm quite a believer in a warehouse pool system, so meaning that you can only start a flow in a warehouse when you know that the destination is available. So you have to pull the flows through the warehouse, and you can only start picking products when you know that if you have finished picking, there's a destination somewhere in the staging area where a truck will be assembled, and where you can get these things, you can put them down, and then later on put them in a truck and ship them. So the pool concept also on the inbound flow is very important. If you unload a truck, you put them in a buffer, but then to bring them to a location, you should know which location to bring them to and pull them, so that the operator doesn't need to search. He knows I drive this way, and perhaps he can be assisted to find the most optimal path, but somebody experienced will have the most optimal path, and he will typically drive there directly, and know what the destination is. And a clever system will have also already thought of a combination of, if he's there, then he can do something else close by. Which we call double cycling, but you double cycling.
Once wrote a thesis on that topic, but that was more on unloading container vessels.
Okay.
You could apply double cycling there as well.
Yes, you can do the same thing there.
All right. AI. Everybody's talking about AI nowadays, and every type of sector. Do you see some value cases within the warehousing space?
Well, I'll just explain to the digital twin. Will learn by getting feedback from what he had planned or calculated to do, what comes back as feedback, and he will learn from that to next time do it even better. And that's where I believe AI will have a role to play in the warehousing environment.
Slotting optimization, so really positioning SKUs in a warehouse. Do you think there's room for improvement there?
Often there is, because we typically use ABC analysis for that. So we look at what is the demand for the item, but we have to split ABC always in full pallet and pick lines. Full pallet movements is something else, and you can have a fast mover in your revenue, which is not a fast mover in the warehouse. If it's a very expensive item that only goes out in full pallets, then it's probably not a fast mover. Slotting in function of the demand for the product is very important, and knowing when a product that is entering is bound to be required is info that can be very useful, not to put that product too far away in the warehouse. So yes, slotting is important. We run ABC analysis for that. We create ABC locations.
You probably do this very often for customers.
Yes.
How do you do this? Do you use like Excel or
It's typically an Excel exercise at this moment.
One of the things, like if you ask companies, are you applying slotting optimization? Everybody will say, yes, we do that. But it's often based on this ABC.
Yeah,
what about
and on the past?
On the past.
And the ABC is always on the past.
Yeah, but it's difficult to predict what kind of orders will be there in the future. But an important aspect is correlation, like product affinity. If you, for example, a keyboard and a mouse are often sold together, it's better to put them together. Like if you apply AI, you can detect a lot of these order patterns. You can say, look, if you can fully reslot your warehouse, you're going to have 30% lower pick distance. However, you need to have...
is optimistic.
It's very optimistic. However, the thing is, it needs to be operationally feasible. You cannot change thousands of SKUs like in one evening. So there are probably a couple of ways to make it operationally feasible as well.
Well, there's also the way you design your warehouse, of course, that is important in the slotting. If you have to run past every location anyway, because you have to make these long picking lines, because there's no shortcut between the racks, then you don't win anything by putting it here or at the end, because you have to drive past it anyway. So the warehouse layout also determines what you can do with the slotting. And never forget, don't put all the fast movers next to each other, because then you get congestion in the aisles. So that's something to bear in mind. I've seen that in the warehouse once in France. It was a bit ridiculous at the start of the shift. Everybody, 15 pickers, they were standing there in the same location, same space, in the same location, and nobody was able to move. The slotting is an important optimization, and that it is an important optimization aspect, because you can often win easily 10% by moving some products. What you just said about two products that are often asked for together, yes, bring these together. That also is a gain that you can make. I call it best friends analysis, but okay, it's something that I thought of myself. So you look at which products are often in the same order together.
Exactly.
And that is indeed quite a difficult calculation to do in Excel, even impossible. So there you need other models for that.
What we're noticing lately is that warehouse management systems, they can cover a lot of different processes, a lot of parameters behind the scene, but they lack often the real optimization power. We see that sometimes things can be improved. What do you think some are the key areas in which these warehouse management systems can be improved?
Well, they have, and certainly the more advanced warehouse management systems, they have quite a lot of optimization potential. Like we talked about the double cycling, they do. Slotting, they do, and they can assist you also in the slotting to put the right product at the right location. Slotting is not an easy exercise, because you don't only have the ABC, we just talked about it, but you also have, if you want to slot for a picking, an order picking, you also have to put them in the right order, that you pick from big to small and from heavy to light, to make stable pallets. And that's often where they lack support, how to build stable pallets. Which is becoming very more important now, because on the 1st of January there's also some legislation changing, and as somebody who ships products, you're also going to be more responsible on the stability of your pallets that you put in a truck. So more stable pallets, together with using less packaging material, because that's also one of the European legislation changes that we have. is going to be a challenge for lots of
Yes.
companies.
Interesting topics coming up. Maybe last question. How do you see the future of warehousing? Like, there are a lot of innovations. What do you think that are the innovations that we haven't seen yet, maybe, but are coming up within the next 5, 10 years?
That's a difficult one.
Mm-hmm.
I did believe, and I do still do believe in digital twin for further optimization. I honestly believe that this will be part of what we do. I also believe in a world where the warehouse management systems will become like a kind of framework,
Mm-hmm.
and where you can, via microservices, have companies that develop certain apps for certain processes that work perfectly in a certain way that you want them to work on a certain process during a certain moment, that you can easily integrate. And lots of these optimizations that we see are now with apps that if you could easily integrate them in your process, in your workflow, and just click them into the program and say, now, okay, it's clicked in, now do this. I honestly believe that this would be this is the next step in warehouse management systems. I think we're going to get there. Manhattan already has it available, not available, not that open just for everybody in the world to just say click, but they have built their own application based on that one. So you can click and click and click certain apps. If you want to work in a certain way, you buy the app, you click it in, and off you go. I honestly believe that this will be more like an open market where you can in the future work that way. And we will see more automation.
Yeah.
Shuttle systems are very attractive today. They're also quite attractively priced for what they do. We will also see more robotics, so people will be more and more replaced for the more repetitive tasks by robots. And if you have a goods to man system and you have a camera that can detect how should I pick this product and pick the right hand, finger, thing to lift them up, why not use a robot? Today these things are quite expensive. And in a manual system, with a guy picking, you can sometimes go up to 400 pieces per hour that people can pick, or even 300 and more lines. It's not a given for everybody, because I also know these automatic systems, goods to man, where they only have 150 to 200 lines. So it's not a given that you achieve this, but it is possible. And then a robot will not be much faster at this stage.
Okay, yeah. I think 20%.
They mentioned 1,000 pieces per hour that a robot can pick, but that's really under the most ideal circumstances.
Yeah, I think right now 20% of the warehouses have some type of automation. I think that's going to increase the next coming years. Sure. But on the other hand, do you really think that all manual work will be replaced at some point?
You can't.
No, because of flexibility, probably.
You have flexibility. If you automate, you have to automate for your peak. Black Friday is coming. You should be crazy to set up a warehouse for your Black Friday peak. If you have this peak, because then your volume just triples and more during this period, and you're not going to design a warehouse just for these couple of days during the year. So you will need some operation beside it to handle these peaks. You will automate for more than your average, of course, but not too much more, because it costs too much to not use that capacity.
All right.
So that will happen. So you will still need manual labor beside it, and you'll need manual labor anyway for the products that cannot be automated.
Yeah, the bigger or
the bigger, heavier, ugly, as we call them, ugly products, because they have odd shapes. You will definitely need some extra hands for that in the future too.
All right, fantastic. Then let's wrap it up. Jan, it was a pleasure to have you here in the first episode.
Thank you for inviting me, and to be the first is also
yes,
quite an honor. Thank you very much.
All right.